But there's a rivalry series game tonight. So there's 2 rivalry series matches tonight and Saturday. And I wanted to, I mean, obviously, Tom and Wally, you guys have some insights on Hockey Canada. But Kim, I wanted to see if you had any insights on your thoughts maybe so far, or maybe what Canada needs to do. Have you watched the games? Any and all of information you can give me to make me sound smart.
Oh boy, Sammy, we're in trouble. I haven't been watching a lot, to be honest with you. I think it'll be interesting. You know, I wonder if you'll see anything different now that these players have been in training camp with each other, and it's an interesting timing, you know, with the pro league starting here shortly. You know, and these players
I'm actually really interested in the February series, because then the coaches will have seen the players and maybe picked different people.
Yeah.
The new ones right now that have come in are all NCAA.
Yeah, you know what? I was actually at Clarkson not too long ago. I watched 2 games there, and I picked up a couple players from Clarkson who I like.
Tchaikovsky, I think, was one.
I remember coaching against her in minor hockey and just being like, I don't know what to do. Just hope she's not on the ice. I don't know. And they picked up Gosling, the other Gosling, the cousin, who I coached against as well, who's pretty special. So, I haven't watched a ton of it, but I'm just so intrigued. The timing of all of this is so interesting with the league starting, and there's so much. I mean, they sold out the tickets this morning for the Toronto game, the New Year's game there against New York. And so, you know, I just think there's a lot of buzz, and I hope, you know, as always, the games will live up to that standard. But I'm always, you know, like you, Sammy, I'm always fascinated who the line combinations are going to be, who's going to be with who. You know, the D pairings always seem to be a little bit more solid, at least when you look at like the top 4. You know, who's going to get the start in net? I think the U.S. finally has a true starter, which if they keep her in the net.
Yeah, who has a ton of confidence.
Yeah, but I mean, they haven't, I think we've talked about this before, they've kind of had a rotating starting goalie for a number of years. They couldn't quite figure out who was the one, and I think she might be it. And that could be the difference maker. Like Dave Gann was the difference maker, you know, in a couple of the tournaments. I think this kid might be for the U.S., but I don't know.
Aaron Frankel.
Are there any?
Played the second game of the last series, but Abby Levy, who is the New York goalie, has not seen a game yet. But she's 6'1". Like, I'm hopeful that we get to see her play. It would be really fun to see her play.
Are there any key injuries right now that you know of?
For the U.S. or for Canada or anybody?
For anybody.
So the U.S., no, although their roster for tonight hasn't come out. And then for Canada, Mashmeyer's not going, but they say that she is just getting ready for the season, that she isn't too injured that she can't play, which also lends itself to the question of, will this happen more in the future? Like, she's practicing with Ottawa, but she's opting to not play for Team Canada, which is interesting. Or not even go. Like, there's 3 goalies. She could go and just not play, but she wants to stay back. Ambrose is still hurt from the last series. They left Rattray off the roster, and they left Eldridge, which I thought was interesting. I thought has been playing well. And Fillier's not going. So there's seems to be a lot of newer ones in there because of the injuries too.
Well, that'll be interesting. I mean, you got two people who can really put the puck in the net who are not, you know, in the lineup for Canada, which is, you know, interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I you know, that gritty style that those forwards play is always, you know, Eldridge, who didn't used to be gritty. I give her a lot of credit, actually. She used to be just pure skill. And now she's kind of becoming more of a power forward. And obviously Rattray's got that under wraps. But I still think that's something that, you know, when you look at some of the American players like Rock and Carpenter and like just their physicality on the wall. I was watching some old video clips I had from the Olympics of those wall battles and how much time the US is willing to keep the puck on the wall and just keep it until, you know, they find one of their Ds jumping down or they find someone in the slot. It's
interesting.
It's,
I'll have
I
to
don't
look
know.
at that 'cause I certainly don't notice that. I mean, you talk a lot about defending pucks off the wall and winning wall battles, and it, to me, I have not noticed that with them, but they do have a lot of puck possession time, so I'll have to watch for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think like a lot of their power play stuff now runs around the rim, like perimeter more, and looking for those opportunities. But yeah, ever since I forget which coach it was, I think it was Dallas Eakins said like 80% of the game is on the wall in the NHL level. And now when you watch, like even I'm watching practices, I'm watching team scrimmage, like he's not wrong. There's so much stuff out there. And so, but I think, you know, like in the NHL and then certainly with the women as well, the highlight reels we all see are some, you know, majestic end-to-end rush or, you know, some breakaway we make, but those plays are more, you know, the outliers. So I don't know. I'm sad I'm not going to the game tonight, but I have some players on my team that are going, but yeah, I'll definitely be, you know, as you know, Sammy, it's going to be 3-2, 5-4 in overtime. we already know what's going to be happening here. Like it's not going to be 0-0 going to the third here, probably.
No, it's been interesting. The last two games I feel like have been tight, and then the Americans pull away. Like Canada hasn't seemed to be that same team in the first two games, but they're still tight regardless. Like even if the Americans are pushing. So you're right. It'll probably be close. And because they're in Canada, I think that extra sort of oomph that the crowd can provide hopefully will spur them on.
But we're only 2 years into this, like the Olympic cycle, right? So they're still in the tryout period for the new players,
yeah,
right?
So that's what I like about Canada bringing these younger players. So like Sophie Jakes is back too. Like she didn't have a great first two games, but they kept her around, which in past Hockey Canada iterations, as we know, that might not have happened. So the fact that she, you know, they're working with her, they're trying to develop her, you know, they see her potential. So that's good. The last roster at the last series was, the average age was like 28 or something. So I'm glad they brought in some younger ones to just see. But even people like, they brought back Lauren Gable, who can put the puck in the net, to see what she can do at that level. Again, Jennifer Gardner, who's been like lighting up the NCAA, is there too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see these young ones, what they can do, although Gable's 26, but
that's still young compared to all of us on the call, Sammy. So it's all relative.
Yes,
Jake's
or
is
young
special
compared
though.
to the players, the veterans, you know, like Fast and LaRock and those guys. So
But Jake's is a lot like I mean, you hate to compare these players and like they're so amazing, but like she has a lot of similar offensive abilities as Ambrose, right? Like her potential to maybe be the quarterback on the power play, right? Like she has a next level offensive ability. Obviously, she has to be able to defend, but you know, I'm hopeful they give her a lot of chances. I've known her forever, but she does have some power play talents that we
I
know
also
at the
like that she's
level.
a civil engineer, which, I mean, if you're an engineer, you're good in my books. So
there you go. Well, you'd probably have a pretty good team if you had all the engineers out there. They'd sure be smart.
Right?
Yeah, they'd certainly be smart. We should
Okay, well,
let
that's
Wally
great
talk
insights.
now.
Wally has his hand up, so let's go over to Wally.
Yeah, I've really got a different outlook. I'm not following that level of hockey much, and I was a big part of it. But Sam, it's you guys are in the business now of hockey, not the process of development. And so when you talk about this player coming in and that player coming in, and how do you pick a team and who's going to beat who, I think that's what we're in. It's a business now. There's no development process. Coaches don't have time to teach and train and monitor. It's sort of going to be. I go back to our centralization days, Sammy, and I know having written the curriculum for the the women's team in its infant stage and revising it in 2007. I only focused on how can we get better and what do we need to do. So when Kim talked about Iceland, and she's talking about D-zone cover and talking about the outcome and looking forward to who they play and how they do, I'm more into how are you making them better to do what they need to do. And that's my mindset still in the pro league is there are a lot of things that aren't being taught because they quite simply don't have time to get them together to teach them in a big fashion. They're going to come in like the pros, who have very good coaches, hired skills coaches, and tactically get very, very good. But at this level, it ends up being short term when you do get a team together and it's all people being new, trying to be their best at what they are.
Well, Wally, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the pro league coaches because, I mean, as you know, I lost my job to this pro league, so there's still some hurt and some difficulty for me to move forward. But what I do like is that they hired Howie Draper, they hired Carla McLeod, they hired Courtney Kessel, people that are about the development of the person, the player, the individual. We've all heard from these people. I mean, we know that that's could be really great. So with only a 24 game schedule in the pro league, Wally, I think they will have time for all of this. So maybe it won't happen at the national team level anymore because there isn't time. But I friends that are playing for Howie Draper that have never played for him before, seem really excited that this is suddenly they're valued as a person. All these things that we always talk about that he's able to implement at the pro level is pretty awesome that they, went out of the norm. Now, I don't like that these coaches are still on retainer with their U Sports team. Like they're kind of playing both sides right now. So they only have a 1-year deal and they just took a leave of absence. But hopefully good coaches are coaching good players. And I know for Kim and I, when we played pro, that wasn't always the case because they weren't paying coaches at that level. So I'm glad that at least they have full-time coaches that are of a certain ilk.
They have a degree of expertise, technically and ethically. Great coaches. I agree with you, and I never really thought of that. I'm thinking more of the national team. Eventually, it's going to go to the Olympics, and where are they going to be? So I think the pro league, over time, hopefully, it does what the NHL has done. It just makes all players better to play at the level that they do play at when they get to the Olympics, if they do. So
it might mean though there might not be centralization anymore. There might not be camps.
I don't expect that. Yeah. Listen, Kim, I want to get to the point. I don't know your situation, but I imagine it's similar to what I faced in Japan, playing against teams that were much better. And I'm listening to you talk and how excited you are about what you're doing and what you have to do. And I've done that for a few generations and been through the frustration of playing a team you had no hope of competing with, but you still had to try to do better. But I did learn an awful lot about playing without the puck. And a little bit of advice for you if you do play really good teams is consider penalty killing with 5 until there's a free puck and then do the rodeo thing. If you try to play conventional D-zone cover like we did against having to play the states and whatnot, the outcomes would have been way worse. And the biggest result I got in coaching in those situations was penalty kill with 5. And I don't know if you remember, Kim and Sami, and I'm sure you don't because you were players, but we taught the strategy of making sure you finish your check on the player in your zone before the hash marks, not allow them to wheel up the wall because we were playing big ice. So that.
Wally, what do you mean by penalty kill with 5?
Well, what I mean is you shrink no pressure. In the Olympics, when we pulled our goalie and won that game, I said the last thing said was penalty kill with 5. They had 6. Don't be overly aggressive and try to play conventionally. Be conscious of being on the D side, having busy sticks, waiting for that puck to turn over before you went and attempted to pressure. So even in some of the conversations I've had with coaches who coach at a fairly high level, they penalty kill with 5 means you've got 5 literally goaltenders filling all the shooting lanes, covering all the passing lanes. When you're 5-on-3, you have 3 goaltenders filling all the shooting lanes and the passing lanes. But if you think the player skill discrepancy is going to be able to play conventional, I've had great success with penalty kill with 5, really passive penalty killing against the Oval team when I coached the senior team that Tom coached in Strathmore, and we were able to beat them 1 game, which was quite amazing given the skill discrepancy. But it's, we had to play against the Soviets in my day. So did we learn how to play D zone? Yes, we did. And so everything that we did, I continue to work on with minor hockey kids, and it's pretty simple. A teaching point on D zone cover 1-on-1 is keep your toe caps facing the puck. Don't turn them, because when you turn, they're going to whip back the other direction. And toe cap square is Dave King's key teaching point that has so much value today when you're pressuring 1-on-1. But anyway, I'm glad you guys are on, but I sent out a topic yesterday, and Al Ramsey is on.
Amazing. I'm all done anyways with my questions, so thank you. That was great.
Sami, are those games televised live? How do we access them? Because
yeah, they're on TSN. So tonight's game, I'm pretty sure, starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's also on the NHL Network in the States for anybody down there. So I'm going to be on with Megan Duggan is my co-host tonight, which is fun.